Welcome back, everybody. This is Amanda, and I'm from the Strawberry Moon Homestead. Today, I'd like to give you a tour of how our gardens and our urban permaculture homestead is doing in July. So we've had quite the drought here. We haven't really had much rain in over a month. We haven't even mowed our lawn in over a month because it has just been so incredibly dry. So all the gardens are really kind of suffering for that. We don't do irrigation. We have been watering the annual gardens with the hose. Normally I like to do that with the rain barrels, but they're empty. So yeah, everything's just a little bit dry, and I'll give you a tour and you can see what's going on. Starting at the back of the property, this is a little green bed that I've got going on here with some kale. This kale was planted at the end of May, and you can see how small it is, like just from the lack of rain. This is giant kale and it hasn't hardly done anything. So the lack of rain is definitely hurting the annuals quite a bit. The permaculture beds and all of our perennial systems, however, are doing just fine. These are our hazelnuts. They haven't produced anything for us this year. They're a little too small for that, and that's okay. Our strawberries are coming along. We've gotten some strawberries. Most of them get nipped off by the birds. Our cap bushes, they've all done really well this year, but the berries are a bit small just due to the drought. Our currants, I have to get back here and pick some more. We're getting lots of currants. My son loves currant jam, so I'll be making currant jam soon. All of our elderberries are in blossom. A lot of them back here, at any rate, are starting to put berries on. So I'll have a lot of elderberries this year, which is wonderful because I'm planning to make a nice elderberry syrup for the winter. There's some more elderberry here. This is a high bush cranberry in here. It hasn't done anything this year yet, so hopefully next year something happens. Got some more caps. Back here, more elderberries. They're loving the sun and the heat, and again, the perennial systems just do amazing despite the fact that we really have not received any rain in a month. I think we got a couple of very small amounts of drizzle, and that is it. The milkweed's doing wonderfully back here, full of life. I like to let the milkweed go and hopefully get just a nice little patch of milkweed going. Really good for the pollinators, obviously the monarchs, and the leaves are, with the common milkweed, are edible. They're full of vitamin C. Got another currant bush back here, full of berries. My aronia bush, not producing yet as it's not big enough. This is our wildlife pond. If you remember from the spring, you could see the water, and it was fairly devoid of life, well, besides the frogs, but devoid of plant life. This duckfoot has taken over, so I might have to come in here and start pulling some out because you can't really see anything. We had lots and lots of tadpoles in here a little while ago. I'm not sure if they're still in there or what's happened. I'm sure they've become foods for all the birds that are around here as well. Got some more currant bushes that I propagated last spring coming along. We have our day lilies blooming here, and these lilies are actually edible. So these pods here, they're all edible. You can eat the blossoms like you would a squash blossom. So what I've done, you can put cream cheese in it and fry it up like a little treat. Few beds of lettuce greens, and they're all doing okay. I've got some Chinese spinach My regular spinach has bolted right away. We didn't even get anything from there. I have another bed here. Again, the lettuce is doing well. The spinach bolted right away. Over here, we just harvested all of our garlic, and we replanted some beets here. So I'm doing a fall garden, planting a lot of starchy vegetables to take us further into the winter. So here's the food forest that we have going by the rabbits. This jostaberry got just annihilated by sawflies last year, so it's coming back really nicely. I was afraid they actually had killed it, so I'm happy to see that it's doing well. Here's 2 hascap bushes. They produce nice hascap berries for us this spring. This is a Korean pear. Getting lots of. Last year I had some quail in this box here. Had a lid and they were able to go out into this little coop here. Unfortunately, we had a raccoon take them all out. So I filled this up and I've planted some beets. And then beside our chickens, we've got another little green bed. So here we've got some more currants. There's some comfrey. I cut all of our comfrey down after it bloomed and it went to be compost beside all of our apple trees. Most of our apple trees have put nice apples on. This apple tree over here does amazing for us. So it's got lots of apples. Our mulberry here, it's starting to fruit. We do lose a lot of these to birds, but that's okay, because we've got black cap raspberries and regular raspberries doing amazing in here. So we're definitely getting more of a bumper crop of raspberries this year. We have pulled so much out of this spot and all the other spots that we have because we have a lot of raspberries growing around. So these are my Jerusalem artichokes. We had a really bad windstorm come through and it just knocked everything down. Along with the drought, they are kind of suffering. So I've been watering them, but I think I'm going to have to pull some, and I know they'll bounce back, but for right now they look like they've had a bit of a hard time. The kids' annual beds are doing well. Got lots of carrots coming. Tomatoes and everything are doing well. We've got some Swiss chard that's gone to seed, so I'm going to let it continue to go to seed, and then I'll collect the seed for next year. We've got pumpkins here that are blooming, so I know they will be very excited to get some pumpkins this fall. And their corn's looking pretty good. It's been a bit of a difficult year with the drought, and we've also had quite a few nights that have gone down to like 5 degrees. It's been on and off, either really hot or fairly cold. So, and then add in the 0 rain that we're getting, it'll be interesting to see how the annuals do. This is our Yarrow Patch. It's just buzzing with activity. There are so many insects in here, it's crazy. So I've actually harvested quite a bit of it. I'm drying it up and we use it as tea. If there's ever an illness around, it's really good for fevers. There's some more tomatoes and our sea buckthorn. Got a couple more apple trees here. These are small apple trees. They've just got a couple apples on them, which is good for this year. It's their first year producing. Here's our bean patch. So we're just getting little tiny beans so far. So by next week. So this is our horseradish. I'd like to probably cut it down 3/4 of the way and do horseradish sauce this fall. In this corner, I have, again, way more raspberries that are doing wonderfully. Got some dill. And back in here, all over, we have a lot of this wonderful plant right here, mother's wort. Looks a lot like stinging nettle, has a lot of the same properties. Really good for women's health. It's a really good herbal to have. So I'll be harvesting that a lot for teas this winter. So we've got a lot of them that have popped up. A lot of the harvesting of garlic, and I've replanted beans. We put down some compost and I've replanted beans and turnips. We've got our tomatoes doing here. They're doing okay. They're not doing amazing. Again, the drought is kind of keeping everything really dwarfed and not coming around so much. Runner beans that I planted at the beginning of June, and then I had to replant and replant again because they just were not coming up. So I finally got some here. What they'll do, I don't know, we'll see. Hopefully we get at least a little something out of them. We've got our potatoes, which are doing well, just flowering now. Some chamomile. It planted itself here, which I was really happy about. So I'm going to let this go to seed, and hopefully we can get this area into an area that just produces chamomile for us. So this is where garlic was, and we just harvested. This was a radish that went to seed. So I've harvested a lot of the seed pods, and we're just going to fry them up and eat them. But all of these, I'm going to let them go to seed so that I can replant next year. Our blueberry plants are doing really well. It has been dry, so the berries aren't huge, but we have a lot of them. So the kids have been going crazy getting all the berries, the raspberries, the strawberries, the blueberries, the hascaps. All the berries have been amazing. We have this beautiful rose that I planted this spring. It's a climber. It's a Rosa rugosa, and it is going to climb up our laundry pole here. And, oh, don't mind the street noise. It's going to cover this part of the house. This part of the house gets full sun the majority of the day, and it gets really hot. So this rose will grow up, and it will cover that part of the house and act as a sunblock to hopefully make the house a little cooler. And then we'll also get to harvest the rose hips from here as well. Here's another bean patch. It's in with our peach tree and our grapevines, which are crawling up our trellis really nicely. We've got one little set of grapes on them, but they'll produce more next year. So again, these beans aren't producing yet, but probably next week we'll have lots of beans. We've got some peppers here. I've got peppers a lot behind me as well. My peppers, I will always plant them in pots because when I do, I think it keeps their roots really warm and they do really well in pots. I also put a lot of rabbit manure in there and they just grow up really nicely. That's our onions back here. So these onions I started by seed, and then I've got some other ones that I've started by the little bulbs. So we'll see which ones do best. It's kind of a little experiment I've got going on with myself this year. I've got about 5 different types of peppers here. I've got chocolate pepper, one called a dew pepper, Hungarian pepper, pumpkin spice jalapeno, a Brazilian star pepper, and a habanero. I've got some more onions planted in there. The peas are pretty much done. I'll pull these, add some compost, and then do a fall garden planting, maybe of carrots. I've got some more herbs over here, so a lot of basil, some thyme, rosemary. Then over here, peppers everywhere. We like to slice them up and freeze them for stir fries. They also go in salsas, but I have a lot of salsa canned from last year, so I'm not sure I'll be making any more this year. This is oregano. I'm going to let it get a little bit bigger, so I probably won't harvest any of this until next year. We've got chives and a lot more strawberries planted. There's some calendula. I'm going to let that seed out and hopefully seed in this area a lot more for next year. So coming up the side of the house, we have a lot of volunteer tomatoes that popped up here. I still have the garlic that's in here to harvest as well. The peas, the kids have been loving all the peas that we're getting. Perfect little snack for them. Got some more of this mother's wort. This is a good spot for you guys to see what it actually looks like. It's got really pretty flowers on it. That's what the leaf looks like. It'll make a nice tea full of lots of really good nutrients. Then we've got some more strawberries here, a little volunteer sunflower. It's getting eaten. I've had a lot of milkweed pop up in this spot, which made me really happy because I love milkweed. So to see it in this little spot that I actually don't really like this spot very much. So I'm glad to see that it's popped up here. And right beside it, we've got this lovely colorful butterfly weed. This is one of my favorites. Really good for the pollinators. And then beside it, we've got our grapevine, and it is loaded with grapes. So none of our other grapes are really producing very much yet, but this one has tons. So that will be exciting to be able to harvest those. This is the front food forest, and it's a bit of a dilemma for us because this front yard got completely overridden with bindweed, and the bindweed will pull everything down. We'll attach onto it and pull it down. And it doesn't matter how often I come in here and I pick it and I pull it, and it comes back. So what I have noticed is once it's shaded out and you get a big enough bush or tree in here, then it seems to not be quite as bad. So I am going to bring a lot of Jerusalem artichokes in from the back, and it's going to get planted in this area here because so far the bindweed has just annihilated whatever I've put in here. And I've put a lot of natives in here. I have put so many different things, and it just eats it up. So I'm really hoping with a vigorous, fast-growing plant like the Jerusalem artichokes that it will grow thick and abundant in here and really help to take over. So over here is our elderberry, and I cut it way back in the spring, and it has just blossomed and bloomed out just so amazingly. Like, I think that's got to be about 8 to 10 feet high, which is pretty amazing. So can't wait to be able to harvest all of these. I should probably harvest some of the blossoms and make a bit of a tincture. Our cherry trees have done really well. We had a lot of cherries on them. I could not get the netting over the top of these trees though, so the birds made off with the majority of our cherries. We got about a handful, and that's fine. We also have a hedge of raspberries here. It's not doing the greatest though, so we will probably split this up. We want to take a lot of it up north to the cabin, and hopefully by doing that, it will produce a bit more. That being said, this hedge really keeps the bindweed down. So lastly, out here we have our native black cap raspberries, which are abundant. They are producing amazingly, giving us tons of berries, and the kids love to come out here and pick as much as they possibly can. It's a great evening activity for us after dinner. So with the really interesting weather patterns we've been getting, the cold evenings, the very severe lack of rain, and I know everybody's getting really weird weather this summer. Out west, it's been a lot of cold and a lot of rain, too much rain. All of the crops are just, they're not doing so well, especially the annuals. It seems that the perennials really are doing amazing and still producing the way they should, which just hardens into my mind that we really just need to be moving more towards a perennial permaculture system. The annuals are not going to last. They are not resilient, and they are not going to make it. And they're not going to do what we need them to do for us to move forward, having a good ecosystem. You add in the price of food and all of the inflation that is happening lately, perennial food systems really are the way to go. So if you have any land whatsoever, plant some raspberries, plant some strawberries, plant a tree, because those are going to be the things that last. The annual systems are too fragile to depend on. Well, that's all from me for now. I hope you guys are doing well, and I'll see you next time.